Hello again. I'm Father Timothy Scott, and in this final video, we'll be looking at Matthew chapter 28, his account of the resurrection. It begins with Mary Magdalene and the other Mary going to the tomb. There's an earthquake and an angel descends from heaven. Remember, there were guards stationed by the tomb on Pilate's orders. They faint from fear. The angel then rolls back the stone and proclaims to the astonished women that Jesus is risen from the dead, that they should tell the disciples, and that they will see Jesus risen in the Galilee. Then Jesus himself appears to the women, who are not surprisingly astonished. They fall down and grasp his feet, but they receive the same message from Jesus. Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me. What is special in Matthew's Gospel is the account of the soldiers who come to their senses and tell the authorities what has happened. And like Judas, they are given money, but this time to lie and to say that the body of Jesus was stolen. Meanwhile, the male disciples follow the women's instruction and indeed travel to the Galilee, to a mountain, perhaps the same mountain where Jesus gave his first instruction. And here begins Jesus' final words to his disciples. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Now this is interesting because we didn't talk about the temptations in the desert at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, but they're very relevant here. The devil's third temptation of Jesus took place on a high mountain, seeing all the kingdoms of the world. The devil said to Jesus, "All these I will give you if you fall down and worship me." In the resurrection, Jesus indeed has received all authority, of course not from Satan, but from his Father. And on this mountain, as teacher, he instructs his disciples one last time. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. Jesus had called his disciples, and now they become apostles, literally those who are sent out on a mission. He sends them out to make new disciples through baptism. Jesus, the teacher, commands his disciples also to teach, that the new members of the church through baptism will obey what Jesus has commanded, his new law. For Jesus is both teacher and lawgiver. Then his final words to them, remember, I am with you always to the end of the age. How he remains with them through his ascension and eventual gift of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost are described in the Gospel of Luke and in Acts of the Apostles. Here, Matthew's Gospel concludes with these words of hope and confidence. He promises his Spirit as a constant guide and protection for the community of disciples through the ages, in the church, right up to today. He is still present in the church through his Spirit, guiding us, teaching us to obey what he has commanded, the good news. Before we close, I'd like to review what we covered in these 6 videos. I began by describing how in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus is a teacher like Moses, offering 5 great sermons or instructions, beginning with the most famous, the Sermon on the Mount. I described how the adult ministry of Jesus begins with his baptism by John in the River Jordan, but that most of his ministry occurs around the Sea of Galilee. I mentioned how Matthew is careful to point out how the words and actions of Jesus are in fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. In that sense, it is perhaps the most Jewish of the Gospels. We saw how Peter is clearly first among his followers, and even overly confident as he tries to walk on the water, or at the Last Supper, claiming that he will never deny Jesus. We looked at Peter's confession of faith at Caesarea Philippi, and how Jesus confers on him authority over the newly formed Christian community, the church. We followed his journey south to Jerusalem to be betrayed, to suffer, to die, and to rise. We saw how his ministry of teaching, preaching, and healing continued after his solemn entry into Jerusalem as Messiah and Son of David. We looked at his very challenging preaching about the struggles that will be faced by the church, and how his preaching became apocalyptic with the whole cosmos in turmoil, but that in the parable of the final judgment, the King will welcome those who have made a place for the poor and the hungry. Remember his words, "As often as you did this to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it to me." We then moved into the Passion with the account of the Last Supper. Jesus, betrayed by Judas, his trial and crucifixion, and his death, witnessed only by the faithful women disciples. And it is these same women who will hear the angelic announcement of the resurrection and who encounter the risen Jesus. They, in turn, will invite the male disciples to journey north to the Galilee, where so much of Jesus' ministry had taken place. There, they will encounter him risen, and he will send them out as apostles and promise his abiding presence in the community of the church. I hope these videos can help you to delve more deeply into the Gospel of Matthew and to serve as an impetus to look at other books of the Old and New Testaments. St. Jerome wrote that ignorance of the Scriptures is ignorance of Christ. May what you learn serve to deepen your knowledge of Christ and your relationship with him, who is the way, the truth, and the life. Thank you.